Hi, friends. I think we're live, or I hope we're live. It looks a little bit different this morning, or this noon, I guess I should say. Typically, we're on a different platform, but today we're going to try this via Zoom and see how it works. So I hope that you're able to see both myself and our guest. Anna is here with me. So
Hi.
there she is. Just up top, I want to encourage you, if you weren't able to be in worship with us yesterday, to go back and to watch that live worship. It was such a meaningful and timely message. And so I hope you'll get an opportunity to do that. If you are new around here, I'm Pastor KC. I'm the Director of Family Ministries at Foundry. And this is episode 3 of our Foundry Parents interview series. And I am joined by Anna Herndon is how I know you. Why don't you tell us your last name, your new last name? Oh no, we might be paused. Oh, there she is.
Okay. Cut out for a second.
Oh, can you tell us how to pronounce your new name? Because I know you by Anna Herndon.
Oh, Shampine.
It's Shampine. So this is Anna Herndon Shampine. We went to college together and have known each other for a really long time. Anna is a mama of 2 girls, Stevie and Eden. She does YouTube videos that are amazing, and there are a lot of views on those. And also she is recently a doula and has completed doula training. And so we're going to talk about some of that stuff with you today, and it's awesome to have her with us. With that in mind, I want to just give us a content warning. So if there are folks watching, just know that we're going to talk about some things like labor and birth, potentially loss and miscarriage could come up. So if that's something that could be triggering for you or problematic for you on this day, I encourage you to not continue watching because we care about your health and your safety. So now that all of that intro stuff is out of the way, why don't you, Anna, if you can, tell us a little bit about you, your family, your girls, your husband, all that stuff.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I am married to a guy named Derek, and we've been married, coming up on 5 years, I guess, 4 or 5 years. I can never remember that kind of stuff. But we do have 2 daughters. Stevie will be 3 in June, and then Eden just turned 1 like a couple weeks ago. So we live in Goodlettsville, Tennessee, and I'm a Nashville native, and my husband's originally from upstate New York. But yeah, that's us.
Awesome. So we're just going to hit it right off the bat. Like, one of the first things that I want everyone to hear and to know is about your journey to motherhood. That's one of the first questions we ask anybody as a part of this interview series because it's so important. And so wondered how much you might tell us about your journey to motherhood, the highs, the lows, your birth stories, any of that stuff that you want to share.
Yeah. So I always knew I wanted to be a mom. I feel like that's kind of, when you're raised in the South, it's typical. But once we got married, we got pregnant pretty quickly with Stevie. And when I found out I was pregnant, I kind of, you make your first appointment to just whoever, typically, especially with your first baby, just kind of, trying to figure it all out. And I was seeing this one doctor. I'm kind of going to talk to a point where what led me to now. I was seeing this doctor, and for my first couple appointments, and we didn't connect, which was something that was very important to me. And I only had 2 appointments with her. And because of those 2 appointments, and let me preface this by saying, she was an OBGYN, and there are amazing OBGYNs out there. For me personally, this one was not one of those great ones. It didn't seem as though birth was something that she loved to do. It was a very much for her a medical thing, get in, get out. Like there was no like care, I felt. So it kind of pushed me into doing a lot of research. Like if I'm not vibing with this person and she's presenting me with a birth that doesn't sound like a good time to me, I want to go look elsewhere. And that kind of pushed me into looking at different options for birth and catapulted me into doing a ton of research, my husband and I both, and just really seeing what my options were for birth and what all that involved. So I ended up deciding to switch my care to a birth center with midwives, closely connected still with a hospital. I had mentioned with Stevie a home birth to my husband, and he was like not about it at all. So a birth center was kind of a nice compromise for us both, where he still felt comfortable, and I was still kind of getting more that side of care, for me. So, and that also sent me into, through my research, discovering what a doula is and how important they are to birth. Through my research, I kind of discovered that I did want to have a medication-free birth with Stevie, strictly because I was terrified of that needle. But so because of that, it kind of got me into researching doulas and how they can really help when that is the desire for your birth. So I ended up hiring a doula who coincidentally was actually someone I grew up with. I knew that she was a doula, but I had no idea what a doula was until, it came time for me to need one.
Connected all those dots for you of like,
yeah,
doing. Yeah. It's like cool when the universe does that, right?
Yeah, right. So the birth with Stevie, in the birth center there, and I won't get into like extreme details. There were parts of it that were not so great to remember. However, the thing that I look back on most with that birth, and I've told my doula this since then, we are still in close contact. She was my doula again for my second baby. But what I remember most about that birth was her, honestly. Even through, I did end up having a postpartum hemorrhage and having to be transferred to the hospital after delivering Stevie. But through all of that, she never left my side. I remember when things were getting very iffy, like during that hemorrhage, she just grabbed my hand and she asked if she could pray with me. And she just was there the whole time, holding my hand, just like that comfort. Even, for me, when I'm sitting there hemorrhaging, my mom and my mother-in-law and my husband, who were all in the room with me, the look on their faces, they were all very scared. But the look on my doula's face was just like steady, and just having her next to me, even now, what could have been a very, it was a bit of a traumatic situation, but now almost 3 years later, I don't remember those emotions connected to that. I remember just her calmness and like just where she was and how she was through that whole labor. And it honestly switched from being a bad memory of bringing my first child into the world to a pleasant one because of her. So that, and I have since told her this, my birth with Stevie and having her by my side and those emotions and memories attached to her is what drove me and kind of lit a fire in my heart to like, oh my gosh, every woman needs a doula. Like every woman deserves this, again, because the potential of even switching what could be a bad memory of your birth into a pleasant one, that's so important. Like I did get training through Doula. And Penny Simpkins, who is one of the founders, one of her quotes is, "How will she remember this?" And that's so important to me. And it's such a good question, because it's just like, I feel like going back to that OBGYN, a lot of times, and some no fault of their own, you get busy and you have all of these births, and it's easy for the mother to just kind of be, pushed to the side. And, the baby, obviously you want a healthy baby, and, through the delivery, but also like there's importance with taking care of the mother through that. And so because of how well Elise, my doula, took care of me through Stevie's birth, I have such good memories of that birth, which, how her birth went could have been very different. So that's kind of what threw me into all of this, even after she was born, further research into just birth and how I feel like a lot of times we really get it wrong, and so then we got pregnant with my second daughter shortly after Stevie turned 1. And I just, after having the birth center birth, I feel like it made my husband more comfortable with the home birth. And I just went with that. I was just like, I'm having this baby at home, So I selected a midwife, and again, had Elise there as well. And we had the baby at home, and it was such a different experience. It was so peaceful. And again, my labor with Eden was completely different than it was with Stevie. You think you have it all figured out. You're like, oh, I've done this before. And then your next labor is completely different. Yeah. So it was awesome. It was such a peaceful, I had her in the tub in our bedroom. And it was a long labor, but again, it was so peaceful, and being surrounded by those women who not only are focused on delivering a healthy baby, but also making sure that I felt cared for and supported and encouraged. And I was just as important as, a healthy baby. And I feel like that's where we get it wrong sometimes. Like, we're so focused, as we should be, on, delivering a healthy baby, but we forget, that mother needs love and care and encouragement and support too. So, like I said, since Stevie, I kind of had that fire, just like every woman deserves to have the birth that she wants. And I feel like that's important to say, just because I'm sitting here saying that I had a home birth and it was so peaceful and I loved it and I never want to deliver a baby another way. That's not for all women. That's my biggest thing is, I feel like bringing a child into this world is not one size fits all. One woman's desires are going to be different than another. I just had an appointment the other day with a client of a birth that I'm going to be attending, and her husband asked, so your main goal is that a woman delivers a baby medication free? And I was like, no, absolutely not. Because for a woman, if that is not her desire and she is forced into that, that's not going to be a memorable experience or a good, positive birth that she thinks back on. So my biggest thing, and what I tell anyone, anytime birth is brought up, I love talking about it and hearing everybody's stories. But my biggest thing is, every woman needs to know that she deserves to have the birth that she desires. If she is able, as long as everything's healthy. I can't sit here and say, if you don't have a healthy pregnancy, oh, you 100% can have a home birth and you need to fight for that. Because there's going to be, specific situations where, that's not an option. But in most cases, this is your body. It's your decision how you bring your child into the world. And you absolutely deserve someone that is there with you and supports those decisions that you've made and helps you through that. And even just going back to, I just kind of talk all over the place, but ADD.
It's great. Keep going.
But even going back to my birth with Stevie and telling my husband that I wanted to hire a doula, him not knowing, what a doula is either. Most women don't know what a doula is, let alone their spouses or partners. And trying to tell him why I needed to hire one, it's hard. Because a lot of women are like, oh, well, my husband is there or my partner is there. They'll be my support system. And yes, they are absolutely your support system. But imagine sitting there and watching someone you love more than anything else in this world going through an intense amount of pain. It's hard for you to take a step back and be like, not want to do anything, because obviously you want to do anything that you can to help them. But like, my husband is very supportive. He's been amazing through both of my labors and deliveries, but he's not going to do the things that a doula is going to do because he doesn't know. He's not going to know to put me in different positions that are going to help with pain, or to make sure I'm going to the bathroom or drinking water, like all of these things. And that's another reason I think a doula is so important, because a husband or a spouse partner, their one job in that room, I feel, is to just be your constant, like be there, kind of just, keeping the oxytocin flowing and just being right there next to you. But for a doula, their focus is still 100% on that laboring mother, but in a different way, like encouraging her and, moving her in different positions, helping with pain management. It's different, they both have very important roles. And I think that they are both needed in that situation. I kind of, I feel like I've just kind of talked everywhere, but.
Oh, that was great. It's so funny too, because I was, this is not about me, right, at all, but I also can't help but relate for so many reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And so just real briefly, one of the things that you should know is that Anna and I had the same doula at one point.
Yeah.
We
love
were
Elise.
right. Elise is the best.
Yeah.
We were pregnant somewhat at the same. I think I was pregnant sort of the tail end of your pregnancy, which was great because you kind of did the whole thing first. And then we actually went to the same birthing center and did the whole thing. And unfortunately, I was one of those women that wasn't able to give birth at the birthing center because of some medical complications, but still was able to give birth under midwives at Vanderbilt Hospital with Elise as my doula. And everything that you say, I mean, Greg, who's my husband, my love, loved him 100%, could not handle the amount of pain that was happening, could not handle it. At one point he was like, I cannot be here. And so he dipped out and went to Taco Bell, and I was like, I mean, it's fine, whatever. But what was funny is that my water broke while he was gone, so when he came back, it was just in things were
game on.
Exactly. But yeah, everything that you say about birth and choice in birth was something that really, really resonated with me, because my first pregnancy was not so great, and my first labor and delivery were not so great. I was sort of really encouraged to induce labor in a hospital setting. With Pitocin, is that what it is? Yeah. It in an IV drip form, glued to the bed in labor for 12+ hours. It was real awful. And so I have a lot of really good memories. Not a lot of them are with Cash's labor and delivery. And I had, a fairly difficult and as you say, completely different labor the second time around, but the one thing that I will always remember is how present Elise was and how I felt cared for. And immediately after giving birth, I wasn't like passed out on the bed, like not able to move or do anything. Like Elise was feeding me crackers and I was as happy as I could be. Like, it was a completely different experience. So I really want to know, like, if you could tell expectant parents one thing right now that they can prioritize in this moment, because it's hard to believe, right? Well, actually, it maybe isn't. I don't know. I've been going back and forth about like whether or not pregnancies are spiking at this moment, because I feel like I've been more pregnancy revealed.
My husband and I were talking about that because like, I don't know, people locked in the house with their small kids are probably not game to like have another one right now.
That's probably true. It may be maybe first newly expectant parents.
Right.
But there were also people who were pregnant before this whole pandemic started. So what kind of advice do you have? What's the one thing that expectant parents can prioritize right now?
I would say research and finding out. I was just talking to somebody about this the other day. You know, doctors do the best they can, but let's be realistic. They have busy schedules and they get a very small amount of time with you. And like I said, birth, and it's not one size fits all. And I think obviously taking what your doctor says, doing your own research and fully understanding, you know, what your doctor's telling you and asking questions and doing research to know what questions to ask. What kind of labor do you want? What kind of delivery do you want? Do you want to be able to get up and move? Ask the hospital if they have the Bluetooth, you know, contraction, the words escaping me, that goes on your stomach where you're not trapped to the bed, because that is the worst place to be when you're in labor, is not being able to get up and move. And just research, like being able to just fully dive into all that is labor and delivery and deciding what you want, and, you know, fighting for that. We have so much access to so much information in today's day and time, and there is no reason that a woman should not know what she's going into and what she wants out of that, and be able to advocate for herself in that situation.
Yeah, so what you're saying is so important. It brought up a couple things for me. Number one is the staggering number and statistics that show that African-American women and women of color in particular are, you know, disproportionately affected with mortality rates for women and for children even. And so, you know, I think part of it is a justice movement of equity for access to research and access to education and all of those things for women of color in particular, and a justice movement toward educating healthcare providers in those particular areas and making sure that women of color are heard and that their concerns are heard. Yeah, and the other thing that came up for me, you said the words dive in, which made me think of water, obviously, and waves, and then thinking about contractions as waves. And I went down this whole trail of remembering like birth affirmations and stuff like that. So I wondered if you had any particular birth affirmations or mantras or something that like helped you breathe that you might be able to pass on to some expectant parents.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a couple that really helped me. Birth is such a mind game. It truly is. Obviously, you are in an extreme amount of pain. But I really, you know, God made our bodies to do this, and I feel like He equips us with that. I honestly feel like when a woman goes into labor, her pain tolerance just goes through the roof. And you add oxytocin into that, which helps. Like all of these different things our bodies are made to in that moment handle that amount of pain, and it is an intense amount of pain. But for me, just like you said, the waves, that with both labors, that was my biggest thing, just getting through a contraction, just telling myself you can do anything for 60 seconds. Like you can accomplish anything for 60 seconds. And that was my thing. When I would have a contraction, I would close my eyes and imagine surfing, which is funny because I've never surfed in my life. But, they always say, oh yeah, they're waves, just imagine riding a wave. So, with the buildup, I would imagine, kind of like gearing up, and then at the peak of it, I'm like riding it. And then there's that come down, and that would really help me get through that contraction, because what's coming next. Like, you're not sitting there just like, oh, when's it going to be over? When's it going to be over? When it's good, you're like riding with it and coming back down. So just constantly reminding myself that I am capable of doing anything for 60 seconds, and just using that visual. It was kind of my ritual through my contractions. And another affirmation which every woman has to come up with an affirmation that resonates with them and works for them. Because again, it's not one size fits all. What works for one woman is not going to work for another. But another affirmation that I used a lot, and I use just in my life, period, when I need it, is not pain, it's power. And really taking the pain from contractions and being like, no, this is the power that has been given to me as a woman, and I am taking that as power, and just kind of turning it into that. And that really helped, again, with the mind game of, no, I am stronger than this. This is my body. I'm in control. And I am going to use this pain as my power to bring my baby earthside.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
That's so good. What you say about making sure that women and expectant parents, like whatever affirmations you're using resonate with them,
right.
Is so important. And it also, like, it makes me think of, like, the wave analogy was really present with me in pregnancy. And I just kept imagining, like, the undulation of the ocean, and how this was going to be such a part of my mantra. Right. And then I got into labor, and after my water broke, my contractions were back to back. So 60 seconds, no break, 60 seconds, one break. And I was like, Elise, like, I was screaming, we did not talk about this. This is not what we talked about. This is not what I was expecting. Yeah. And, her calm and wonderful response was just like, some women are lucky. And I was like, ooh, I do not feel lucky right now.
Yeah.
This is awful. But like, I think part of just the whole message is learning how to live into what it looks like to be powerful, and to take back the journey of birth.
Yeah, exactly.
I know for me, like, I really needed that with the second birth, and it was so redemptive and amazing. And I like to say, like, pregnancy and labor and birth happened to me the first time, and the second time, I happened to it, because that was sort of just complete reposturing of what it looked like for me. And you were a huge part of that. You were. I mean, it was funny because we hadn't connected really since college that much. And then I don't know, I think it must have been me that reached out about the birth center and some of that stuff, because you were encouraging that. And so anyway, our connection and then also, like, the connection with Elise and all of that sort of really helped me have the redemptive birth that I
love that.
did. So I'm so happy to know that you've completed the training with Doula, and that you're going to be a doula. I'm just thrilled. I think what you were meant to do. And I can't wait to watch you live into what it looks like to be, a helper for so many mothers, and to help all those babies earthside. Like, what a gift. So excited. I want to sort of plug some things. Number one, if you are not subscribed to Anna's YouTube channel, you should, because she has so many amazing YouTube videos. Even her birth videos are out there, and they're so great. So Anna Shampine on YouTube, and you could subscribe there. Also, her Instagram is AESHAMP, AE Shamp. That's her Instagram handle. if you want to follow her there. I am so thrilled that we were able to connect. I am
Yeah,
sorry
me
that
too.
there were some technology issues.
It's totally my fault.
No, it's not. But we managed to do it, I think, or at least I
Yeah.
hope. And it's been awesome to be with you. I want to plug for all of our Foundry parents and our Foundry family, our next episode. We're going to have some back-to-back episodes, just like Casey's contractions. So next week for Foundry Parents Interview Series, episode 4, we're going to have Miranda Jones, who's a business owner and educator from Nashville. She's amazing. I think you're going to love her as well. Anna also knows her.
Yeah,
And
she's awesome.
yeah, so it's going to be great. I hope you'll join us. Like I said, that's going to be next week. So back-to-back episodes. It's been awesome to be with you all today. And I hope that if you have any questions or anything, that you'll reach out to myself or Anna.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. It was fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will catch you next time. Bye, friends.
Bye.